Wonder Woman 1984, the action-packed comic book blockbuster of 2020 and the official sequel to 2017's Wonder Woman. Now let's get right into it. First off, I'm a huge comic book fan, always have been, always will be, of both DC Comics and Marvel Comics. So the character Wonder Woman first came on the screen in the 1970s, portrayed by actress Linda Carter. So I grew up on that as a kid. Then we had Wonder Woman hit the big screen. She was first introduced in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, and she's portrayed by Gal Gadot, awesome actress. And then we saw her go into Justice League, which was a travesty, but I'll get into that in another review. Zack Snyder's Justice League that recently came out, the director's cut, far superior. And she's in that, and she does a great job. So Gal Gadot does a great job, first off, as Diana Prince, Wonder Woman. In 2017, the original Wonder Woman was directed by Patty Jenkins, who did a really good job. Great script, great story, great special effects. She also directed this current movie, Wonder Woman 1984, and I'll get into that in a minute. So in 2020, we see the trailer come out for Wonder Woman 1984, and I got to tell you, it blew me away. It looked fantastic. I'm a huge 80s guy. I grew up in the 80s, loved the 1980s. So to see a throwback to the 1980s was cool. But to see Wonder Woman in the action, the special effects just looked really good. The only thing that confused me in the trailer was the character of Steve Trevor was back in the trailer. As you recall, in the original Wonder Woman, Steve Trevor sacrificed his life and died at the end of Wonder Woman. He's portrayed by Chris Pine, who I really enjoy as an actor. So I was confused to see him, Steve Trevor, who died in the World War I era, and now he's in 1984 and he hasn't aged. So I'm just curious how they're going to do this. But that, there's a mystery there, right? You got to wait to see the movie, right? It's going to be something good, right? Okay. So obviously, due to the pandemic, theaters are closed, they're open, they're closed, they're open. Here in Canada, they're pretty much closed. It's strictly streaming services. So in December, when it was going to be released, there was some talk that it would only be in the US. And the last minute, they said, no, it's going to be in Canada. I was like, right on. And I believe it was released for streaming services on December 25th, Christmas Day. So as we all know, in Christmas during the pandemic, we're all stuck at home. And what better to enjoy Christmas than to see a blockbuster on your own big screen TV in your living room? So I'm going to give you the setting. Big screen, surround sound, big thing of popcorn, the whole family sits down, and we're super duper excited to see this movie. The movie is 2.5 hours long, I will preface that. We watched the movie, and it was horrible. Horrible times 10. I'll get right into it now. Okay, let's get into the opening, because the opening was actually pretty good. There's going to be some spoilers here, so if you intend on seeing Wonder Woman 1984, please turn this off now and go see it at your own peril. But anyways, the opening sequence of Wonder Woman 1984 is actually quite good. It shows a young Wonder Woman, Diana Prince, when she's a youth. She's involved in a obstacle course race in the Amazonian world that she came from. And basically, she cheats in this race. The moral of the story is don't cheat. And that's fine. So far, so good. Then it flashes to 1984. She's an adult. She's Wonder Woman. She's in the United States. I'm not sure what city they're in. I'm going to assume Washington, D.C., but perhaps California. I don't know. I don't recall. Anyways, there's a daytime shopping mall store heist by a bunch of campy-looking robbers that it doesn't make any sense. But anyways, put that aside. They're going to be robbing a store in a busy mall. But the way it's shot, it's campy, it's silly, and they throw every 1980s piece of merchandise or any artifact from the 1980s at you in a period of like 5 minutes, and it feels forced and contrived. It just seems ridiculous. It didn't do well. I mean, if they did it where they're throwing one item out every few minutes, another item later, that would be cool. But they just throw everything in the kitchen sink at you at once. So the actual caper itself is okay, but it's more campy. So I'm thinking, okay, fair enough. I'll forgive them for that. The movie's 2.5 hours, right? It's going to be good. So anyways, we get into the movie. We're introduced to some characters here. We're introduced to Pedro Pascal, who's an awesome actor. He portrays Maxwell Lord. For those of you who don't know, Maxwell Lord was a larger-than-life villain in the comic books during the 1980s. He was a wealthy guy that was sort of like a Lex Luthor. He was kind of sneaky. In this movie, he comes into possession of an artifact that grants him unlimited wishes, like sort of like a genie in a bottle type thing. And he's a con man on the verge of bankruptcy, and he gets these powers, and he's able to change things the way he wants it. So that brings us to Steve Trevor. Somehow during this movie, Diana Prince gets around that artifact. She's able to get a wish granted, and basically she just wishes Steve Trevor, who died like 67 years prior, comes back. This is where the movie gets super, super creepy when you analyze it. So how does he come back, you say? Well, they do get the spirit of Chris Pine, slash Steve Trevor, but he assumes the body of a regular man in the 1980s, portrayed by actor Christopher Poloa, and without his consent. So the spirit of Steve Trevor essentially takes over, the host body. And when Diana Prince looks at this actor Christopher Poloa, she actually sees Steve Trevor, but she knows that Steve Trevor is in this man's body. Okay, fair enough. So Steve Trevor is able to communicate as if he's a Steve Trevor from World War I. He's fascinated by the 1980s. That's a little subplot. And it's, a couple funny moments there. But here comes the creepy part. They start making out. Obviously, they love each other. And there's a suggestion that they got together during the course of the night. So I'm going to fast forward right to the end of the movie. She has to make a sacrifice, and Steve Trevor's spirit has to leave this actor, Christopher Poloa, which he does. And Christopher Poloa is standing there, doesn't know what's happened to him. As a matter of fact, there's a scene where he looks at Wonder Woman, and he doesn't know who she is. So, for those of you who haven't figured this out, she basically took advantage, without his consent, and had relations with this guy. Now, where I find this difficult to digest is we just went through the Me Too movement, and this is unacceptable by all means. And I'm not the only one. I went on the internet and I was surprised. There's actually quite a few chat discussions going on about this exact subject in Wonder Woman 1984. Where I'm going with this, I'm not blaming the actors. I'm not. The screenwriter and the director, what was going through their mind to throw this in there during this time we're currently in? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Especially in a comic book movie, but let alone any movie. It's just not acceptable. Maybe 20 years ago this would have flown, but not in today's era. So that's my major issue with this movie to begin with, but it continues. So this Maxwell Lord character, okay, he's an interesting character in the comics. Well, he's not interesting in the movie. He truly isn't. He's boring. Like, there's just nothing frightening about this guy. Okay, well, here we go. In the trailer, we're shown the introduction of the Cheetah. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Cheetah is actually a very good villain in the DC Comics world. She basically has the strength of Wonder Woman. She's dangerous, and she's a perfect combatant to go against Wonder Woman. So we know she's going to be at this movie at some point. So that's exciting. So the actress that portrays the Cheetah is actually Kristen Wiig, who's a brilliant comedian, great actress. I really enjoy her work. And again, the actors, they can only do what they can with the product they're given. So we're introduced to a very extremely slow origin tale of the Cheetah. And when I say slow, 2.5 hour movie, we don't see the Cheetah until basically the last 15 or 20 minutes of this movie. And it's boring as heck. Anyway, she eventually becomes the Cheetah, and you're thinking, okay, so far this movie's horrible. We're now 2 hours and 10 minutes invested in this. It's going to get good for the last 20 minutes. Sorry, folks, it doesn't. The fight occurs between the most powerful villain, the Cheetah, and Wonder Woman, and I think it lasted like 5 or 10 minutes. It's forgettable. It's boring. There's nothing interesting about it. And obviously Wonder Woman wins. And in this movie, the Cheetah was no match for Wonder Woman, whereas in the comic, she actually is. So they've completely wasted a great villain. It would be equivalent of having the Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan's masterpiece, The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger's the Joker, and have the Joker in it for the 2.5 hour movie, only 10 minutes. It would make no sense. That's what they've done here, because they were putting all their investment into Maxwell Lord's villainous character, which didn't do anything for this movie. So let's get down to the action. Well, there's got to be action, right? I mean, look at the trailer. Go and watch this trailer after my review. It's action-packed. Got some bad news for you, folks. All of the action in that trailer, that 2.5 minute trailer, is the only action in this entire 2.5 hour movie. That's correct. you basically have maybe 15, 20 minutes of total action in this trailer, or this movie, and essentially 2 hours and 10 minutes of filler. And it's not good filler, folks. It's boring, it's slow, it's confusing, and it's a hot mess. It truly, truly is. Now, before this movie rolled out, there were some critics out there, and I do read Rotten Tomatoes, that said this was a great comic book movie. And this was before, which I find very interesting because there's nothing great about this movie at all. It's a hot mess and it's hot garbage. So I kind of find it interesting, once the movie lands on Rotten Tomatoes, then more critics are able to do their opinions and the true opinions come out. So I'm not sure what kind of scheme was going on there in the beginning with those critics in Wonder Woman, but they definitely were not giving a fair review because their review makes no sense. This was not one of the best comic book movies ever. Not even close. The thing that confuses me is Patty Jenkins did such a good job with the first Wonder Woman. You know, what happened here? I mean, it's so bad now that Wonder Woman 3 is going to be made, and the rumor is that Patty Jenkins is dropping out altogether, which is probably a good thing after seeing this hot mess. There's only one good moment in this movie, and it's a spoiler. I'm going to throw it out. And it's actually technically not in the movie. It's in the after credits. We see the original Linda Carter, the original Wonder Woman, have a very brief 2-4 minute cameo, and then it's it. To me, that was cool. I thought, hey, that's awesome. But that was it. That was the only time. Other than the opening of the Amazonian race, this movie was just horrible, downright horrible. I feel bad for Pedro Pascal. He's a legend. He does The Mandalorian. He's in one of my favorite TV series, Narcos. Check it out on Netflix if you haven't seen it already. It's very well done. And he's left with nothing to build on with this character. He's just so boring. The Cheetah, what a waste. What a waste. This movie should have had about 3 or 4 different fights with the Cheetah throughout it. That really would have made this movie much better. But instead they have one simple fight at the very, very end of the movie, and it was forgettable. As a matter of fact, this whole movie's pretty much forgettable. The reason why I'm so worked up about this is it's another scheme and trick by the studios to fool you into a movie and mislead you with what the end product was. So you see the trailer, and go watch the trailer after you watch my thing. And it is action-packed. It looks spectacular. But it's misleading because that's all the action in the entire 2.5-hour movie. Why don't they show the highlights of the dull, boring, slow burn in the trailer and tell the true fans what's going on here? So I got misled. I spent $29.99. I streamed it on Google Play for a 3-day rental. My family watched it, and we were just bored stiff watching this dud. By the end of the movie, we kind of all looked at each other and said, what did we just watch? This was not a good movie at all. There's nothing good about it. And I have a bar that's set when I watch a DC Comics character. And I know Warner Brothers tends to mix things up with the comics and screw things up like they did with Zack Snyder's Justice League. They forced it into a 2-hour movie. It was a disaster. Luckily, Zack Snyder, HBO Max came back. They made the 4-hour movie, and it's a masterpiece. Like, the two are night and day. I don't believe that happened here because this is 2.5 hours. But it's just got nothing interesting in it. So I don't know what happened with this movie. All the actors are really good in it, but they were completely wasted. Chris Pine was wasted. I believe they brought him back just as a novelty, just to get more people to go see the movie, perhaps. There was no reason for him to come back, really. And just a creepy, taboo subject. You know, it's just unacceptable in any movie. So I'm not sure how that made it past the editor's desk, past the director, past Warner Brothers. It's just amazing that nobody caught this and said, hey, this is just a little unacceptable. I don't think this is appropriate for a movie, let alone a comic book movie. Anyways, what do I give Wonder Woman on a scale of 1 to 10? I give it a 1 star, and I'll tell you why. Because of Linda Carter 2-minute cameo. That's it. But it's hot garbage. And I repeat, hot garbage. Run for the streets when you see this movie. I mean, if you want to watch it, go ahead. Go ahead. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Subscribe to my channel, like it. But Wonder Woman 1984, hot garbage. Avoid at all costs. All right. I will see Wonder Woman 3 when it comes out. I'll be fair because Wonder Woman 1 was really well done. I'm hoping this is just a bump in the road. Anyways, take care. See you later.